Welcome to Open BxRx Tuesday on BronxNet. I'm your host, Kibin Alleyne, and I'd like to invite you to get social with us at BronxNet TV on Instagram and Twitter, and BronxNet Community Television on Facebook. On May 2nd, the country was left stunned to find a leaked draft of a Supreme Court opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade. The 1973 ruling declaring Americans have the right to abortion is now up for debate across several states. Here's a clip from Now This News that briefly explains a state-by-state breakdown of abortion access if Roe v. Wade gets overturned.
Here's a state-by-state breakdown of abortion access if Roe v. Wade were to be overturned. On May 2nd, an initial draft of a majority opinion from the Supreme Court of the United States leaked, revealing that the justices privately voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, a 1973 landmark decision that protects a pregnant person's right to abortion. Reversing Roe v. Wade wouldn't immediately make abortion illegal nationwide, but it would give states the final authority regarding access. 13 states have trigger law bans in place, which would make abortion illegal as soon as SCOTUS reverses Roe. A number of states had abortion bans on the books before Roe was decided, but the courts blocked them from being enforced or invalidated them altogether. This history increases the likelihood these states will ban abortion if Roe were to be overturned.
Joining me to discuss the draft is founder and CEO of Choices Women's Medical Center, Merle Hoffman. Merle, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's very good to be with you.
Now, as the founder of an organization that supports reproductive rights, especially being one of the first in the country, what was your first reaction to this news?
Well, we don't only support reproductive rights, we were one of the first clinics to provide abortions in 1971, 2 years prior to Roe. My reaction to the news was basically rage and sadness. I was not surprised, I was not shocked, because I have seen this coming for many, many years. This is not something that comes out of the sky, but this is the result of a consistent, persistent campaign of anti-choice people and organizations and politicians that wanted to see no abortion in America, and they are on their way to getting there.
Well, as you mentioned, this has been a fight for decades. However, in the past year, we've actually seen bans against abortion in states like Texas. Do you think that could have been a catalyst for what we're seeing today?
Well, what it was a catalyst for, and this has been quoted by a few Republicans, they passed that Texas ban, what they call the heartbeat bill, and where anybody can sue anybody involved in an abortion, including an Uber driver. The point of this is that they said, well, there was no outcry after we passed this in Texas. There wasn't rage in the streets. The thunder didn't come from the clouds. I mean, everybody was quiet, and they're planning, what do we do when everything goes? Well, that's why they kept going. And this is why I co-initiated an organization called RiseUpForAbortion.org, and you can find that anywhere, that is saying we are not going to accept that Roe is finished. We are not going to just talk about what do we do after Roe falls. We want to stop now. We don't want that decision to be published. And they didn't vote on the decision. This was just one justice, Alito, who wrote his thinking on this. Whether or not he changes or what happens, now we have a chance to really gather the anger of so many American women. 1 out of 4 women in this country will have an abortion in her lifetime. Do you know that there are millions and millions of American women, their friends, their family, their partners, their husbands, who have had legal abortions? This touches us all. And I do want to say the reason why I'm wearing this, I'm going to wear black all the time. This is the symbol of the Rise Up, our organization and our movement, because this was the symbol that the women in Latin America put on. And you know that they managed to decriminalize abortion in Colombia, in Argentina, in Mexico. And this was in cities and states and countries that were extraordinarily conservative and run by the Catholic Church. They did it. Now they're not looking to us anymore. They're calling and saying, how can we help you? What a fall this is for America. What a shame. What a shame.
So we actually have a map that shows what each state may face if Roe v. Wade is overturned.
Right.
7 states are protected, but majority of this map is red, which means these states are hostile. What could this mean for the women living in those states?
Well, first of all, I want to tell everybody watching that we're already living in a very discriminatory situation when it comes to reproductive health care. The Hyde Amendment, okay, was passed in 1977 by Henry Hyde, Republican congressman. It stripped Medicaid funding away from poor women and minority women. And actually, the Hyde Amendment was what politicized me, because this is something that just splits minority women, Black women, everyone who is struggling away from middle class women who will be able to manage to travel and have access. So everyone has to understand that this decision will hit everyone hard, but the hardest that it will hit people are to those individuals that are, again, disenfranchised and poor and minority. And this is still in effect. The Hyde Amendment, Clinton and Obama and every president has kept it. So we want to say, don't touch Roe and reverse Hyde.
So you talked about it, like how it's going to affect so many people. I'm interested to know, how will this also affect men in a negative way, and why should they also care about this?
Well, I believe in what I call a radical sense of compassion. I think we're in a society now that is all about me, very narcissistic, very egotistic, and, if it doesn't touch me, then I really don't have to worry about it. But this touches everyone. For every abortion, I believe I can say with certainty, a man was involved. So it touches us. So that's on a personal level, okay? On a political level, we're all members of the same community, America, and we should care. If half of this country is going to be cut off from general health care, from birth control, and they won't stop at this. It is very possible that because it's argued under privacy, Roe was, decided under the right to privacy, that they'll just turn around and say, well, I don't know, should gay people marry? That's not in the Constitution. And go, I want birth control, because birth control, that decision was a part of Roe. So they're coming, and they're coming fast and hard and very serious. And we should all care that women are going to continue not only to be second-class citizens, but have the state and politicians decide when and whether they should be mothers. That is egregious. That should not and cannot stand.
So you brought up birth control, which makes me think about just other forms of contraceptives and just things that women have. Do you think those things are also threatened because of this, or could they also be threatened because of this?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Okay, first of all, very many anti-abortionists consider the pill a chemical weapon. You see? Because you're taking some drugs and it's chemically murdering the fetus in the woman. So they're against that. So yes, birth control. And here's another, part of this awful situation. A lot of the clinics that are in these states that now will not be able to provide abortions also provide birth control. So women don't only come there for abortions, but they go for their health care, for birth control. Without those clinics, where are they going to access birth control? I mean, so follow me. So here, they need birth control because they don't want to be pregnant, right? But they can't get birth control. Then they get pregnant when they don't want to be, but their choices are minimal because maybe they can't go to get pills. Maybe they can't write or get to a place where they can order them. So, and maybe they're more than 10 weeks pregnant, you see, because the pill only works till 10 weeks of pregnancy. So what might they do? They might use the old standbys, drinking lye, throwing yourself down the steps, using hangers, which is why I've always used my 7-foot hanger on my actions when I stood in front of St. Patrick's in '89 with it, and recently in February, we did another action with that. Because this is what it's doing. You know, women will always have abortions. The question is, are they going to get butchered and die from them? That's the question, because nothing is going to stop women from wanting to control their fertility. So this is a full frontal assault on women's freedom, women's lives, women's health.
I'm really happy that you brought that up, because I've seen a lot of people say that abortions will always be around, but the access to safe abortions is what really makes a difference. And so many women are just going to find themselves in really, really awful situations. So I'm so happy you brought that up. And then even outside of abortions, I think also just maybe whoever put them in that situation may have a negative reaction to them, being pregnant. So I think it puts women in a really tough situation. Can you just talk about what women can do, and not just women, just everyone, what we can do to protest against this?
Okay, well, Rise Up for Abortion Rights has been holding walkouts, student walkouts, radical nonviolent actions all across the country. We're gearing up to have one on this coming Saturday. So I think it's really important that people who can get in the streets and, scream bloody hell. Do not overturn Roe. That's the first thing. The second, you see, I know that everybody can't do that. There are people that are enraged, but they're not going to be able to march. So you can donate. You can donate to the abortion funds that give money for women who are going to have to fly up or drive up or have some place to stay overnight. You can write letters to the Supreme Court. You can do so many different things that, you are comfortable doing. Would I love to see every woman, just opening their doors or their windows and say, hell no, we're not going to take this, and we're going, yes, of course, but a girl can dream. I know not everybody can do that, but they have to do, you have to do what you're comfortable doing. And you know what I'd like everyone to do, really? Mm-hmm. The women who have had abortions, I want them to speak about it. I want them to own that decision. I have said many times, the opposition has outposts in our head. All of the guilt, all of the shame around abortion. I had an abortion when I was 32. I own that decision. I own it morally, legally, and constitutionally. I don't want women to feel ashamed, and I don't want them to feel guilt for making what is a profoundly moral decision. And I believe so firmly that it is the mother, and abortion is a mother's act, Most of the women who have abortions are already mothers, and they know the responsibility of feeding that family and bringing up children, and for me, it's not for men, women in black robes or whatever they're wearing. It has to be with us, with the women, with the mothers.
Merle, thank you so much for joining me to discuss this. If you look below, you can actually see Merle's Twitter, and we would love it if, kind of just do some of the things that she mentioned to help support this movement, But once again, thank you so much for joining me to talk about this.
Wear the green if you find it or you can see it.
We'll be right back with more Open BxRx Tuesday.